What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an update to Salamangreat. That's right, this deck is incredibly powerful, but it still loses out to certain types of hand traps, which is why, as a preview, we are playing Crossout Designator in this version. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. With that all said and done, we're just going to dive headfirst into this profile and show you everything we've got. So you are going to be maxing out on triple Salamangreat Gazelle. Pretty straightforward and simple on this one. This card's just absolutely nuts for the deck. The free summon, and then the ability to Foolish Burial any Salad card is really, really good, especially when Salad have probably some of the best graveyard effects around. Then of course triple Spinny. Again, you're utilising Mirage Stalio. You're going to try and get into either a Gozen / Rivalry lock, or you're going to be adding into other effects on the board, which is why being able to utilise your Spinny, you can get a 1-card combo off of the back of your Salamangreat of Fire. Now, we are playing 2 Salamangreat of Fire. This can lead you to an OTK, it can lead you to your 1-card combo. I can show you those at the end of the video as well, just so you can kind of see how the deck operates on its basic level. Now, kind of comboing off with my other normal summon, I do play 2 Flame Buffalo. I was on 3 Flame Buffalo, I was on 3 Salamangreat of Fire. I am bouncing back between the ratios. It really does come down to personal preference. There are times when I would normal summon Salamangreat of Fire and it'll be absolutely fine. But then what I do see is it's like, right, okay, well, if I normal summon Salamangreat of Fire, I have to have already opened up Gazelle in order to kind of get me where I need to go, because then I can normal summon Salamangreat of Fire. I don't mind eating that hand trap, which is either Ash or Imperm, and then moving my plays further on. Whereas with Buffalo, again, quite like with Salamangreat of Fire, for you to be able to continue your plays, you already need to be able to open up something like Gazelle. With Buffalo, you kind of either want to open up Gazelle or draw into Gazelle, but you still need one other Cyverse to discard. And the idea behind that is your Buffalo will be able to play around an Ash and an Imperm, because you'll be able to go, okay, cool, Buffalo Chainlink 1, and then you go into your Balinks as Chainlink 2, because at the end of the day, you don't want to draw what Balinks would normally search you, and if they do stop the Balinks, it's not the end of the world if you do draw it, so you're kind of like edging your bets a little bit. It really does come down, like I said, to personal preference. It's entirely up to you. Some people will play free fire, some people will play no Buffalo. I do still like Buffalo. I just more and more testing, that might change in the future, but for me personally, this is what I'd be going with. And then for the remainder of the Salad cards, we've got the 1 Jackalope, the 1 Fowl, Jaguar, Jackalope, the 1 Fowl and the 1 Foxy. You don't need to rely on Foxy as much. Basically, its spot as a normal summon of this deck has been replaced by Salamangreat of Fire. And then the final card is Weasel. Like, this card's absolutely nutty for the deck. This is what instigates the Gozen and Rivalry lot, because you give your opponent a Salamangreat monster from the graveyard. And then the best thing about that, as long as you remember the secondary effect of the field spell of Salamangreat Sanctuary, they can't just run over it, which makes it even more important, because then it means that they are completely locked, and then you can control that board from that point on, because you will end up having stuff like a Rage or a Roar, and then other cards followed up with maybe even hand traps. For your other Salamangreat cards, of course, we are playing Triple Circle, so you now technically have 6 copies of Gazelle in the deck and then 5 copies of Fire. So if you want your normal summon to be Fire and you don't open up Buffalo, you have a route to get to it. If you want to be getting to that Gazelle, which gives Fire a little bit more consistency, you can go down that route as well, which is why the kind of argument with Buffalo and Fire is completely split. It really does come down to just up to you. And then, of course, we've got the 1 Sanctuary and the 1 Will. I know some people play multiple Will. That's absolutely fine. Will is obviously the card that leads you to your OTK route. I feel that 1 is more than enough, because if you open this up without being able to kind of get the Salamangreats to the graveyard, it can be a little bit dead, and if you open up multiples, it will be dead. You kind of want to go for that 1, and then, but the idea is, off of your OTK combo, you're going to bait everything out so they can't get rid of the Will, or you just hold back the Will so long that you go, okay, cool, activate Will, bring everything back. It's an insane soul charge for the deck. Again, I've seen some people play 3. It's entirely up to you. I personally feel 1 is more than enough. And then for the trap cards, of course, we've got the 1 Roar and the 1 Rage. Pretty straightforward and simple on those. For the hand traps, which is where this deck has a lot of space to work with, you've got Triple Ash Blossom, Triple and Droll Lockbird, and technically Ash Blossom can be like 4, 5, 6 copies, because you just keep recycling it with Wolf. Drolls, that pesky Nibiru, and then Triple Infinite Impermanence. To deal with these hand traps when they are against us, we are of course playing triple Crossout Designator, because you do, unfortunately, Salamangreats do not have an out to Nibiru. They do auto lose at this exact moment in time. That might change come Phantom Nightmare, because you'll have a bit more recursion from the graveyard, but you can literally, you can go all the way to your end phase, you attempt to go end phase, your opponent will go Nibiru, and it's like, okay, cool, that's annoying. There are ways to continue to play. You can hold certain elements back. It's entirely up to you. But if you're going first and you want to kind of guarantee the game, you're probably going to want to burn through most of your resource in order to get to it. And you'll be sitting off of, obviously, one card combo to get everything. And then your hand traps. Nothing else is going to allow you to continue to play unless you open up a card like Fire Recovery. And I'll talk about that in a second. So the last card that we are utilising to try and deal with pesky hand traps is Called by the Grave. Now obviously Crossout Designator can deal with Nib, Imperm, Ash, and of course the Droll. On top of that, a lot of people forget, but Crossout can deal with any of the side deck cards. So your opponent's like siding in evenly matched, Crossout will deal with that. If your opponent's siding in like Lightning Storms, Crossout can deal with that. You'll also be putting in stuff like anti-spells for yourself just to protect you, so you do have loads of different options. And then, of course, speaking of the card I just mentioned, Fire Recovery. I actually really rate this card in this deck. I think it's incredibly good. So you target a fire monster in the graveyard, you send one card from your hand to the graveyard, and if you do, you get to special on the targeted monster or the targeted monster. You can banish this card from the graveyard to target 3 of your fire monsters that are banished and or in the graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw 1 card. You can only use this effect, which is the Fire Recovery Draw effect, once per turn, but the Monster Reborn effect, as many times as you want. And again, what makes this really good is if you draw Gazelle later on in your combo, and you go, I still haven't even used Gazelle yet, you can activate Fire Recovery, send a Salamangreat from hand to grave, and then you can summon back a monster from the graveyard, and then send trigger off the Gazelle, which is really cool. But I love this as, again, this is probably one of the very few options that you do have to be able to play around the Nibiru, because you'll just go, okay, end of main phase, and they go Nib, and you go, right, okay, cool, well, there was no way I could do anything different. But because you've already only used one monster, you could then, at the very least, activate Fire Recovery, and as long as you send a card to grave, you can bring back that monster, and whatever they've just nibbed comes back to the board. The final 2 cards is the one Gozen and Rivalry. So as you see, the deck is a little bit more tailored going first because we are main decking these cards. If you want to tailor it a bit more going second, you can put in Forbidden Droplets, but you also have Nibiru to kind of help you with that bit as well. Main decking something like Nibiru can be very, very powerful, and yes, okay, now these are both limited. You could have played 6 of them if you wanted to. You could have played 4 of them, which is what I was personally doing before the list. Now just playing 1-on-1 is absolutely fine, because some people were still just playing 3 Gozen, but the idea is you're giving your opponent a Cyverse monster. There's very few decks that can utilise that card under a Rivalry lock, and there's very few decks that can actually utilise a Fire monster under a Gozen lock. So you really do cause your opponent a lot of issues, especially when everyone's trying to go into SP Little Knight and everything else. Now obviously Gozen is not going to be the end all be all if you're up against Fire Kings, but keep that in mind. If you know you're against Fire Kings, don't try and Gozen lock them with one of your Salamangreat monsters. It just doesn't make sense. Rivalry them, that's pretty funny, but then of course they still have the Fire King Island, which will allow you to destroy that fire monster. So you do need a little bit of, be a little bit careful. Just keep it all in mind. You can side these out, you can get rid of them if you want to, entirely up to you. Now moving on to the extra deck. So we'll start off with the Link ones. I'll show you all of the salad monsters first, and then I'll show you the non-salad monsters because there's not that many. So of course, for your Link ones, you are going with triple Salamangreat Baylinks. You go through this very, very quickly. You'll recycle it very quickly. You'll banish it very quickly. And that's where, of course, your Fire Recovery can come into play very nicely and just put this back into the extra deck and go, right, we'll go again the next turn. And then, of course, you've got your triple Sunlight Wolf. You can play it too if you want to. I feel that it could get a little bit risky. It's another one of them ones where you want that third in there because you'd want it and not need it, then need it and not have it, because that will cause you more issues further on down the line. If you do want to cut this down, you can put in one SP Little Knight. I kind of avoided doing that route. I actually like the way that the natural pure version of this deck works quite nicely, and I don't always want to keep worrying about, right, okay, I fire locked myself with Salamangreat Fire, or I fire effect locked myself with Mirage Stalio. Not that that's a big issue with SP Little Knight because she'll trigger during your opponent's turn, but again, you kind of want to have that bit more freedom and not need to worry about that. We've got the one Salamangreat Heatleo. I was playing 2. I do really want another Link Free Fire, which thankfully in Phantom Nightmare we're going to get. But 1 is more than enough because you summon it, then you get to target one of your opponent's spell and traps and spin it into the deck. And the only reason you would reincarnate it is in order to adapt your opponent's attack stats, but you have plenty of cards that will do that for you anyway. We've then got the one Decode Talker Heat Soul. I know it's not technically a Salamangreat card, but it is a Fire Link monster. And the reason that this works out so much, and it's technically like Deco Talker and Heat Leo fused, it is a very nice kind of callback. So there's ways of, if you play through a lot of hand traps, you can still go into your Splash Mage. Splash Mage can then bring back your Heat Soul, and then you go into, bring back one of your monsters, and then you go into Heat Soul, which will allow you to draw a card during your turn and draw one from your opponent's card. It's not a go-to, that is your first combo you're going to make. You're always going to try and make the one card combo work, but if you don't use Salamangreat of Fire and you don't lock yourself into fire monsters for the remainder of the turn through Mirage Stalio, you then go into, obviously, Splash Mage, bring back a monster, go into Heat Soul, draw cards, and go from there. And then the most insane card of the extra deck is the Salamangreat Raging Phoenix. So this card is absolutely nuts for the deck, really, really powerful. So if it is linked summoned using itself as material, so obviously reincarnated, you get to add one Salamangreat card from the deck to the hand. So you get your Will of Fire, you get your, you also get your Roar or your Rage, entirely up to you. So you'll see in the combo, OTK will come off the wheel, and then you've got the protection off of Roar and Rage very, very easily. If that wasn't enough, if this card, if a face-up fire monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect while this card is in the graveyard, you get to target one of those monsters, especially on this card, and if you do, it gains attack equal to that monster's attack. Now that's permanent, and the best thing about that is, if you've reincarnated into a Raging Phoenix, if they do destroy one, you go, okay cool, bring back Raging Phoenix gain 2800, and then it's like, right, okay, well, during the next turn, because you can only use that effect once per turn, if you do then kill, or if they then kill the Raging Phoenix, which at this exact moment in time would be 56, and they've somehow been able to destroy it, you can then bring back the original one anyway, and then put that up to 56, so it just keeps flowing. Really, really cool. And then, of course, Mirage Stalio, and, of course, the Violet Chimera for the OTK play. And then the only other ones that are non-Salamangreat monsters, Proxy F, might as well be a Salamangreat monster. But the idea is that off of Will, which you'll see at the end of the combo, is you make Pit Knight Earl, you make Proxy F Magician, you trigger off Pit Knight Earl's effect when you activate Proxy Magician's effect. That will then allow you to target one of your opponent's monsters and reduce it to 0. Proxy will then fuse itself with the Salamangreat monster you'll have in the extra monster zone, which more times than not will be your Raging Phoenix, and that will then allow you to go into the Violet Chimera. Chimera will then gain half of the original attacks, which is 28 plus 14, which is quick math 42, so you'd be gaining 21. So its baseline will be a 4900 attack, and then it gets to do double damage over a 0 attack monster, so that is your one-shot OTK play. Unfortunately, again, it does go past 5 summons, so you do need to be very wary of Nibiru. But if they do feel that, like, if you do this combo and then you're going to be pushing in for that OTK and they go, ha, Nibiru, it's always nice to go, no. How about Cross Out? And then the final card that is the only one that is not a fire monster in here is Splash Mage. I've already explained how good this is, just to get you into that Heat Soul. And like I said, it just lets you play through more forms of interruption. So what I'm going to do now, just to kind of show you how this deck can operate at its basic level, is I'll show you the one card combo that will lead you to either a defensive play or an aggressive play as well. It's absolutely insane. So we will be back in a second. The basic one card combo can spawn from either of these here, whether it be the defensive route or the aggressive route. I will show you the OTK route, and then we will reset and I'll show you the defensive route as well. So with Salamangreat of Fire, you can also get to it through Salamangreat of Circle. So that's what we're going to start with, so I can show you how many different steps you can go through. I am fully aware that this combo runs into every single hand trap under the sun, but you do need to keep in mind that this is only going to be one card, and if this is your OTK route, you're going to have 5 more cards to play with. Whether that be breaking your opponent's board, whether that be cross-out designators, you will be trying to be protected as much as possible. So of course we're going to activate Salamangreat Circle during the draw phase, so it doesn't count towards draw, and search yourself out your Salamangreat of Fire. Normal summon down Fire uses effect to search you out Gazelle. Link off Fire into Balinks, and then you're able to go Chainlink 1 Balinks, Chainlink 2 Gazelle. Gazelle will summon itself down, while Balinks will then search you out the Sanctuary. At this point here, you want to resolve Gazelle, and Gazelle will send a Spinny from deck to grave. With Spinny in the graveyard, you can use its graveyard effect to summon itself back to the board, and then overlay with Gazelle in order to go into Mirage Stalio. Use Mirage Stalio's effect to detach specifically Gazelle, because it will give you the most recursion when you add it back with Sunlight Wolf later on, in order to summon out a Jack Jaguar. What we're going to do here is you're going to take Jack Jaguar and you're going to take Balinks and you're going to go into your Sunlight Wolf. And then you're going to use the Jack Jaguar effect in the graveyard to put Balinks back into the extra deck in order to summon itself back to a zone that Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf points to. This will trigger off Wolf's effect, allowing you to add back the Gazelle from the grave to the hand. Now, if you do have another extender, you can reincarnate Sunlight Wolf using itself, and that will then allow you to add back Circle from the graveyard. But because we're going for the OTK 1-card combo, we're not going to do that. So what you'll do here is you'll use Mirage Stalio plus Jack Jaguar and Wolf, and you're going to go into your Salamangreat Raging Phoenix. And obviously at this point you can trigger off the Mirage Stalio's effect as it is sent from field to the graveyard in order to spin back one monster your opponent controls. Keep in mind, with this combo, you do need to make sure your opponent remains to have one monster, so do keep that in mind. That is very, very important. Then what you can do here is you're finally going to activate Sanctuary, and this is going to allow you to reincarnate the Raging Phoenix using itself. In doing so, you can now use Raging Phoenix's effect to search out any Salamangreat card from the deck. If you're going defensive, you go for Rage or Roar. Because we're going for the OTK, we're going to be searching out Will. You then activate Will, you target your Link 4, and you can bring 4 monsters back from the graveyard in defense. So we're going to bring back Spinny, Jack Jaguar, Mirage Stalio, and of course, Fire. Now what you're going to do is you're going to link 2 of these off. So you want to make sure that either on the left zone or the middle zone is where your Pit Knight Earl goes. And then you want to make sure either the center zone or the right zone, as long as it is pointing or being pointed to directly by Earl, you will be in a good position. You're going to go into your Proxy F Magician. You can now use Proxy F Magician's effect to fusion summon. If you want to keep Raging Phoenix on the board because you don't feel that you're going to be able to OTK through Violet Chimera on its own, then you can use the Gazelle and Proxy F Magician should you wish. But we're going to be using the Salamangreat Raging Phoenix and Proxy F to give your Violet Chimera as much attack as possible. Remember that when you activate Proxy F Magician, it is a when effect for Pit Knight, so you need to make sure you trigger the effect now to target one of your opponent's monsters, reduce his attack to 0, and negate its effects. We then complete the fusion summon with Proxy F Magician and of course your Raging Phoenix to go into a Violet Chimera, which will then gain half of the attack of your Raging Phoenix and your Proxy F Magician, which is 2100 attack, meaning that his baseline attack will be 4900, and if that is attacking a monster with 0 attack with double damage, you know that is way over lethal, unless you've activated Upstart this turn. Still an incredibly fun deck, really do enjoy it. I think that its power level has definitely gone up since it received the new support way back last year, but I also feel that it's a very good underdog deck as well that could cause a couple of upsets in the right scenarios. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe and of course, happy dueling.